Yeah, I'm sure it's all.
We can take it away if you want.
No, I'm sure it's all good. But
What you mean about having a quorum and then 3 carrying?
no, I know, we got that. I'm just. We live, Shell? Are you okay? No, it's all. No, I'm sure you got it all covered. Questions I had.
Fred has some questions too, and we can.
We also did put in about meetings every Wednesday.
Yes, we did.
Before, but read it in special meetings.
Yep, sir.
Okay. I just didn't see the special meetings. But no, it's good. If you got it covered, Greg, I'm sure you do.
Meetings convened pursuant to this section shall be scheduled only on the first, second, or fifth Wednesday of the month.
There you go.
commencing at 4 p.m.
Yeah. Good
Okay.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I actually highlighted it.
What's that?
I'd actually made a
Yeah.
note there myself.
Yeah.
So are there two presenters in the race?
I don't think so. Just somebody with Corey.
Whoops. So.
Yep.
Right there, right?
Yep.
What's that, Joe?
You-
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to our committee of the whole for Wednesday, October 11th, 2023. Welcome to council and welcome our staff and the visitors who are here with us today, presenters. Good afternoon. So I'll call the meeting to order. We acknowledge we're in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Would you call the roll, Shelley, please?
Yes, your worship, Mayor Scott,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Joseph,
Present.
Councillor Gould,
Present.
Councillor Gilroy. Councillor Gilroy actually gave
Yes,
his regrets. He is at a funeral. Councillor Hotelling. Councillor Redmond, who is joining us via.
Present.
Councillor McCormick. Councillor Porter.
Present.
And Councillor Goodwin.
Thank you, Shelley. That brings us down to administrative procedural issues. 2.1, approval of the agenda. So I'd ask for the agenda that you remove 4.1 from your agenda. I don't think we're ready to discuss or make a decision on that yet. So if you remove that, so then I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda as amended, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Joseph, second by Councillor Porter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aren't minded, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you. 2.2, approval of the minutes. So there's a recommended motion. The minutes of the September 20th, 2023 committee of the whole meeting be approved as presented. Someone would like to make that motion. Moved by Councillor Gould, second by Councillor O'Telling. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aren't minded, nay. Motion is carried. 2.3, business arising. Mr. Harrett's going to lead us through this, I believe.
Thank you, your worship. Business arising from committee of the whole on September 20th, and the ongoing business arising from previous committee of the whole meetings is at pages 8 and 9 of council's package. First September 20th meeting. Correspondence to MLA Smith McCrossan is in process. That is with me. It's in process, but it's not complete. Number 2 is for correspondence to Wallace Community Center Society regarding potential of a levy for to fund the activities of that organization. And that is, although it hasn't been sent yet, it is complete. I just reviewed it with Director Hurdle this afternoon. The advisory regarding the committee of the whole and the rescheduling, obviously this month is complete. The forwarding the approval of the repeal of the carbon surcharge fund policy to the September 20th council session is complete. Stop there for a second and ask any questions on those 4 items.
Any questions from Mr. Harrett regards to the agenda item so far? Seeing none.
Moving on to the, thank you, your worship. Moving on to the ongoing action list, jurisdictional review of bylaw enforcement policies. Speaking with Director Cole about that this morning, and be ready for the November committee of the whole. We've had an opportunity to have a chat about it, he and I, and just making a couple of tweaks, but certainly be ready for the conversation in November. The acknowledgement and engagement with the Village of Pugwash and the preliminary report regarding costs of service extensions. Quite a bit of work done by Director Wackress, and I think we're just really have to review one thing, and then I think we're ready to have a a fulsome discussion on that. So again, in the coming weeks, the heavy lifting is done on that. Surplus municipal property strategy. I know that Director Boone has been working on that, and I think that we'll have an RFP ready for consultants next week. Glenn, is that correct? Yep. And the marketing levy discussion, the direction from council was to enter in discussions with the town of Amherst. And I know that those discussions have taken place. What we've discovered, though, is that most of the municipalities, including those in Colchester and some of the others, perhaps this isn't going to happen as quickly as we once thought. There's some additional data to gather, and that probably we're looking at next fall. We're going to do a little bit of a data collection piece on that. We'll bring an update to council probably next month just to let you know what's going on. So happy to answer any questions you might have about those items, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from Mr. Hare regards to this report?
Thank you.
Being none, thank you. That brings us down to 2.4 presentations, public hearings. So we do have a presentation this afternoon, 2.4.1 in the works. Social enterprise. Corey Hunter Chazon is here to present an update on the in the works social enterprise, please. Corey. All good.
Side chair.
Maybe just identify yourselves, please. Then so Shelley will have her for. Thank you.
Just one second. Where is my, oh, there it is. Here we go. Ooh, there.
Presentation.
Just have to figure out where I'm at.
While Shelley's looking for that,
Okay.
I'll
Yeah, please.
introduce myself. I'm Erica Casey. I'm one of the board co-chairs and founding members of In the Works Social Enterprise Network. We had actually presented to this group way back a while ago when we thought things would happen more quickly than they did, but here we are. It's 2023. The house has been finally, the renovations have been finalized, and we're moving forward with some of our program stuff. So we're here today to talk to you about that. And Corey can introduce herself, but she's going to be leading this because she's way better at it. If you think this PowerPoint presentation is cool, she made it.
Thank you.
You're for the credit, eh?
It's a pleasure to meet everybody. For those who don't know, my name is Corey Hunter Chasson. I'm one of the team members within the Works, working with their board of directors. I'm also an instructor of child and youth care with addiction support for Eastern College. I'm the faculty head for that, and I'm a certified crisis prevention interventionist. So I'm certified to teach nonviolent crisis intervention. That's a little bit of my background, and my education is in psychology from Mount Allison University. I've really been excited about In the Works. It's been a fantastic program to become involved in. And so coming in today with Erica, what I was hoping to do is tell you a little bit about everything that's changed and been happening since she was here and presented to you last time, but also to tell you a little bit about where we're going and how we were hoping to work with a little bit of support from the Municipality of Cumberland. So diving right into it, I don't know that I have control of the PowerPoint. So if I generally point at you, is that a good signal?
It's a good signal.
Perfect. So
Or throw anything.
perfect. So we'll just dive right in if we can to the next slide there, and we'll just tell everybody a little bit about what we're going to talk about. I'm assuming we have probably about a 15-minute time window. Is that about right? So there are a couple of points I'm going to move through a little bit more quickly, but I do want to advise you that we sent out a package this morning and there's a lot more detail on it. So if any of these points about our program or about our history are kind of sparking some interest, if we don't have time to answer those questions today, there is a lot of detail in that package. And I just wanted to let you all know that that was there. So we're going to try to tell you a little bit about ourselves, as well as the different programs that we have offered and are looking to offer moving forward, the different partnerships that we're currently working with, as well as some different financial points. And again, where that support from the Municipality of Cumberland is going to fit in for us moving forward. So in 2020, In the Works became a registered charity, a nonprofit organization that is looking to provide recovery support for youth between the ages of 16 and 30 years old. And that recovery support is specifically geared towards people who are in recovery from mental health and or addiction challenges, which, as we know, the COVID pandemic did not make any easier for our region. So there's definitely a demand for that. Now, In the Works is not looking to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. We're not looking to duplicate any services, but rather fill the gaps that we currently experience in Cumberland County by providing complementary services and working as an integrated part of our healthcare and our community-based network. In the Works is surrounded on these three pillars that you'll see on the next slide: inclusion, support, and transition. We look to involve the youth in our program within a core group in the program, and then extend that beyond our program, help them develop recovery capital within the community and transition into workplaces and school locations. And again, that next chapter of success for themselves. Something that gets lost when we talk a little bit about our pillars and what we're doing is the fact that this program is also a wage subsidy program. What that means is the entire 16 weeks that the youth are working with us and engaged in this recovery program, they're also receiving a wage subsidy. They are being paid to be there Monday to Friday, full-time for their program. So in the interest of assisting with poverty reduction in the committee, in the community rather, this is a huge initiative, not just for developing skills and helping with recovery, but also with providing secure income for up to 16 weeks for our clients. And again, possibly giving them that foothold to move into long-term employment or have more skills on those resumes to help them achieve permanent employment. So let's talk a little bit about what that program is over these next couple of slides. We try to take a person-centered approach. I've mentioned that it's up to 16 weeks. We realize that people need to come in and feel a sense of hope and feel a sense of connection. So we're using a lot of modern concepts. We want to provide choice, which is a hallmark in recovery models today. We want people to be able to come in and have services tailored to meet their unique needs. So although there is a basic framework for this 16-week wage subsidized program, or employment opportunity, some might call it, there's a lot of opportunities to tailor it to the individual needs. And that's where we're going to give you a quick snapshot of what kind of services and components are actually within that workday. So as I mentioned, right now, there's a lot of need for this. In the interest of time, we're going to skip this slide. I think you know there's a need for it. But again, if you're interested in knowing why, you can check that out in the details. So the Switching Gears program is the name of this 16-week approach, if you will. And as I mentioned, it's not just a program, it's also 16 weeks of employment with In the Works. In the Works is a social enterprise network, which means we're going to be developing and selling and producing different things. Currently, we've been making different bags that are sold at Dales Grand Market. We just received the kit for our brand new greenhouse, and that's going to be actually built, I believe it's this coming weekend. And then not long after that, our fences and such are going up. But different things are going to be made and developed. And again, those are employment opportunities for the youth who are coming to work with us. But while they're working and developing technical skills and experience within that industry, they also have an opportunity to work at all of these other complementary factors that help support them in their recovery journey. So we have food security initiatives, for example, and we've already secured different funding opportunities to help provide that food and to help give us those materials. So every day, Monday to Friday, our employees or participants will have lunch provided for them, but not just provided. They're also going to be a part of planning it. They're going to be a part of making it. They're going to understand some of those food preparation components, the budgeting, the storage, the safekeeping of it afterwards for any leftovers. So not only are we assisting with food security in the time frame of the program, but we're also instilling lasting skills that will help graduates from this program with continued food security in their own independent lives. Other aspects of the program include peer-led support groups, things like NA and AA and smart recovery tools that can be used to give people substance-related support in their recovery journey. We're going to provide education, including naloxone training for overdoses, occupational health and safety, first aid, as well as others that might be sector-specific to areas of interest for our participants. And we're going to work at skill development, both in-house as well as out-of-house. So while employed with us, we're going to give them opportunities, not just to work in our home, in our building and doing these social enterprise things, but we're also going to connect them to volunteer opportunities and potential external employers as well, for those that it might be fit and appropriate for, so that they can gain some of those additional opportunities as well. This holistic approach to recovery is going to be broken down into 3 different segments, again, allowing us to take that person-centered approach for the needs of the client. Not everybody needs 16 weeks of support. So some people might come in and they might only need 4 weeks or 8 weeks of support. And this is where different blocks allow us to tailor the needs to that person. This model is based off of the full potential 16-week, where you can see that the first 4 weeks are geared towards building basic skill development. Let's come into work every day. Let's build some of those foundational skills and get you set up. Whereas the weeks 5 to 8 is focused more on skill enhancement. So again, that's some of these sector-specific training, certifications, education, and experience out in the community, perhaps, or maybe in the home. Weeks 9+, it continues to be paid work experience, just like the first 2 segments are. All of them are subsidized, but this is where we're looking at having people go out in the community. As I mentioned earlier, volunteer opportunities or potential sites beyond our own social enterprise. If we skip to the next slide, you'll start seeing the different components, which again are worked into all 3 of these different segments. So whether we are looking at the first 4 weeks, the next 4 weeks, or those later ones, we're considering things like food preparation, sharing, and security. We're considering peer support, social capital, and recovery capital, building it within our network, but also within our community. We're considering things like digital literacy and skill enhancement. So we're developing resumes, we're identifying skill sets, we're helping people polish those up and again, become more job ready and employable by the end of this program. If you go through the PowerPoint, this is where I'm going to start moving quickly in the interest of time. You will see some details in the PowerPoint and also in that Word document that we send out that'll give you more insight to all of these different components. So you can learn a little bit about some of those skill development or job opportunities that we have in-house. If you look through, you'll also see more points about food security. We recently adopted the food pantry and we've moved that over. So again, there's kind of a 2-tiered level of support for people in the program, but also outside. There's notes about peer-led support, and you can click through a couple of these slides if you'd like, because again, they're just giving you more details. As far as digital literacy, I will pause there for just a moment because we've recently had some pretty exciting news as far as that goes. Do you want to take a quick 10-second blurt at that?
Yes, we had been approached by DCS actually to become a referral agent partner with them for the GEO program in Nova Scotia. So the digital literacy and training and stuff related to that. So we just got the email last night at 8 o'clock. So I was pretty excited about that. Yeah. And I will, while Corey's still flipping through her notes, I just wanted to make one additional point. When I presented this to you guys way back when, I noted at the time that this was based on a program that already exists in Nova Scotia in PEI. It didn't exist here, but it existed in PEI, and it was called the Reach Foundation. And the reason that we thought it would be suitable for this area is because, again, it doesn't recreate anything that already exists. It really just brings together a lot of resources and different tools that are available for people who otherwise have struggled with making those connections on their own. So we bring it to them in a place where it's a condensed area where they have the ability to establish trust with the people that they're working with, and that they can navigate some of the hurdles that they've struggled with previously, but with support from people right by their side to help them make those steps and make it more successful. Because we know that for some people, making those steps, once they've had mental health or addiction struggles, it's not an easy thing. So
I think it really speaks to meeting people where they're at, which again is a big part of recovery models today, right? Is taking that person-centered and choice-based approach, and that's giving them what they need in a trauma-informed environment. And as Erica was mentioning, you know, we have a lot of exciting initiatives. DCS is a partner that we've worked with before, and we also have other partners that we're looking at working with in the future. We're very excited about a partnership with the Integrated Youth Service Center and different proposals that have been put out by that for Cumberland County as well. And again, it's been a pretty exciting time. I'd love to just skip over to another slide or two, just ahead a little bit if we can, to continuing support and partner, just 2 slides back, sorry. There we go. The other thing too is we're not just providing support for people enrolled in the program. As I mentioned, we've adopted the food pantry over into the community. We're also looking at doing different events. So next year in September, we're going to be planning big recovery events. We saw the homeless hub that actually did probably the first recovery event that Cumberland County has seen this year. It's newly proclaimed in Canada. And so again, things like that are going to be outlets for us to provide continuing support for people who may have been through our program already, or people who may not be enrolled in our program, but again, could use a little extra support or a few extra gaps in there as well. Now, over here, we also mentioned that we're looking to integrate services, and this is a big part of it. So Erica mentioned that our building is beautiful and it's done. All the renos on the inside are finished and it's absolutely beautiful. And we've also had the pleasure of renting 2 of the offices in that building out to the YMCA. So we currently have people from the Housing and Homelessness Division specifically that are working out of the home. And again, that provides local on-site services, and it makes it easier to integrate, connect to people. People who come in looking for housing support through the YMCA can be transferred and referred over to us. People coming in for services with us that might be insecure with housing can be easily directed to the people that are just upstairs. This is a really great tangible example because it involves our physical space, but it's also not the only one. You know, we've talked with the homeless hub about doing outreach, and we've explored, as I mentioned, the Integrated Youth Service Center, which would have, again, outreach beyond our building. And it speaks to the fact that, like Erica said, we're not looking to reinvent the wheel, but rather be a nice little cog in the general fixings of things that just helps Cumberland County and helps our youth to run recovery programs and supports a little bit more smoothly, a little bit more accessibly for people. If we look over at our current partnerships, you will see that we have a number of them. And honestly, I couldn't fit all of them on there without making the text so small you couldn't see them. We've had some great financial support from departments like DCS, the Department of Community Services, the house, which has all those beautiful renovations to it. A number of the work that was done on that was actually done by our first clients. We had a cohort of our pilot program, so to speak, and they came in and they worked alongside professionals in the housing and building sector, and they completed those renovations. That's one of the reasons why we had a few delays, is because it wasn't just a construction project, it was also a pilot project. It allowed us to learn where some of the challenges were. Those challenges have also allowed us to grow. We recognize that Amherst doesn't have really rigid boundaries around the town, and that Cumberland County as a whole needs support. And by running this pilot program, we identified that. We also identified the need for transportation and support to make sure that people can access these things. And so in a number of the grant and different applications we've been putting out there, it also includes components for transportation to include accessible transportation for potential clients. We realize they're not all going to be in our backyard down off Prince Arthur Street. Cumberland County has some rural areas, and people in those sections need this support as well. So the partnerships are pretty extensive, and we're also planning on seeing them grow. How did we pay the wages for those people? Well, that's the wage subsidy. So again, the people in our pilot program, they were compensated for that work they did. And that provided them an opportunity to gain skills while working on their recovery and building their resume. And that's worked out pretty well. I can think of at least one of them that I know did quite well afterwards, and he's doing quite well. And again, interest of confidentiality, I won't say very much, but it was just to say that we learned a few things, but we also experienced some really great personal successes. With that in mind, if we turn over to the next slide, you'll see that we do have some unmet needs. And again, this pilot program helped us realize that. It's a renewable funding source to be able to get this, wage subsidy. So we've accessed it before. We have a current application that's in now. We're very confident from the very eager responses we've gotten that people want to continue working with us. But we also realize that it's important for us not just to be serving a couple of people in the core of downtown Amherst. We need to look at Cumberland County. We need to look at transportation. We need to look at really providing that holistic wraparound service that we're trying to model this off of, like we've seen with Reach over in Prince Edward Island. So again, not looking to reinvent the wheel, but rather address those unmet needs. So what does this boil down to for an ask? Why are we here talking about all of this? Well, it's to let you know that we have some pretty secure finances, which have been wonderful to see. We've had great talks with ACOA, and we have continued funding plans for them on how to move into year 2 and year 3 of our operational plan. We have the Department of Community Services, the Move to Work grant, as we mentioned, with the wage subsidy. We have in-kind relationships with the credit union, which has allowed us to do all of this construction on the building and do the lease to own arrangements that we have, and the many others that you see listed up there. But one of the personal gaps that we have as an organization is that we are running on the capacity of a volunteer board. And to truly provide this service to the capacity that it needs to be done, we need a full-time staff member. And what that's going to allow us to do is, as a board, refocus different initiatives and build capacity and build long-term stability. So we've identified in some of these partnerships, people that we can have continued funding from and renewable funding from, and where we can also source continued operational funding for existing roles. But the setup of that new role and kind of getting that foot start is where we have a bit of a gap to be able to do all of this in the way that we know Cumberland County needs us to do. So if we flip over to the next one, you'll see what we're asking for today. And don't panic too much. We're not just asking you to start rolling out this full enhanced version of our program and also achieve that stability and that continuity for our plans. We need about $90,000. And what that's going to allow us to do is to provide a quality assurance advisor, which you'll find in that package. There's a PDF outlining all of the services and all of the components that come with it, as well as the $15,000 tagline that comes along with actually providing all of those deliverables. That quality assurance advisor piece and that price tag comes with an action plan, different content, different surveys, reviewing things, and it allows us to ensure that our program is being provided in alignment with provincial standards, with community needs, and so on. And that's obviously very important to us as we're looking to establish something new for Nova Scotia and for Cumberland County. And we want to do it in line with provincial standards and also the needs for the people in our community. We want to hear their voices and see them applied. The other $75,000 of that $90,000 ask is for an executive director's salary, which again will allow us to refocus the board of directors while also maintaining operations and enhancing to the full version of this program. And that allows us to achieve sustainability with continued funding. Now, this very same request and proposal and presentation we just recently made to the town of Amherst. And so what we're here asking you today is not to foot the whole $90,000 bill, but we're rather asking that the town of Amherst and the Municipality of Cumberland tackle this request jointly. What we were hoping that you might consider is to meet this $90,000 in a way that the town of Amherst and the Municipality of Cumberland could split that cost. While our primary location is in Amherst and on Prince Arthur Street, and yes, we're looking primarily at servicing that, a big part of those unmet needs that we've identified and also the funding proposals that we have put in, some of which we've started receiving back, some of which we're waiting for finalization, it includes transportation because we want to reach beyond these invisible borders of our town and we want to service Cumberland County. And so that's where we're hoping that maybe our town and our county might be able to work together so that we can start building this sustainable picture for the future. And I believe that pretty much takes us on to, again, just a lovely little snapshot. It allows us to just refocus and move on. And that brings us to the last slide of any questions. I believe I might have gone over by 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm sorry for anxiously getting to that last slide. But if there is a few minutes for any questions, we're more than happy to answer them before we move along with your agenda, Mayor Scott.
Thank you so much. Thank you for both of you being here today and what a great initiative. Questions, comments from councillors? For either one of our guests? Oh, sorry, Councillor Redmond. I got to try to get used to looking at the screen. Councillor Redmond has she's on Zoom there with us, so she has a question or a comment. Councillor Redmond.
Yeah, thank you for what you're doing. I have a question on the naloxone. This is becoming a big issue in a lot of the rural communities. It's not just centered around, urban areas. Is there any training that could be given to our first responders so that they would have the naloxone?
Absolutely. So it's a fun fact for everybody in the room, the easiest way to find it is if you Google Ensemble in Moncton, they have a link right on their website. It'll take you to a website called Towards the Heart. Towards the Heart provides video resources and you can receive training on how to administer naloxone in about 15 or 20 minutes. So it takes very little time. So people that need that training right away, Councillor Redmond, that would be a great resource to just be able to go out and get it. By completing that, you also get a certificate. So you can take that certificate to providers like Ensemble in Moncton or different pharmacies, and they will provide you with naloxone kits because you are trained and you have your certificate. So again, you can access those resources for free and you have that potential to save a life. What we're looking at doing for naloxone training for our participants is we actually have connections to different nurses as well as other people who are working in the community. So we would be using some of those video components, but we're also going to have in-person people that will be coming in to provide naloxone training. So there'll be that ability to ask questions. And again, it's kind of filling that gap because it's great to have online resources, but some people, especially some people who might be struggling with substances, may need a bit more support than that to be able to learn how to use naloxone and to save a life. So I hope that answers your question, Councillor Redmond, but there's those online ones, but also, you know, something we're looking to add into our community too.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Redmond. Councillor Gould, please.
They say technology is great when it works.
Yeah.
True.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you guys very much for doing the presentation. Just one little question, just wondering on numbers of participants.
Of course, we're looking at doing 8 cohorts or groups of 8 cohorts at a time. So in total, that's looking at supporting about 40 individuals per year. And we do have a calendar set for what that would look like for rolling intakes. Now, these are minimum numbers. A big part of what we're here talking about is how we're looking to grow in capacity. We're looking to do more. As we grow, we don't want to just be located out of 27 Prince Arthur Street. That's one of the reasons we're so excited with becoming involved in the Integrated Youth Service Center is, you know, we want to go out to other places and go out to other employers and other volunteer potentials. Let's get out in those communities, not just be in the background of Amherst. So those numbers are a little bit early on. Some of our plans as we start increasing some of our funding and capacity is to have more than just one full-time staff member. And that's where some of those other funders that we've noted do have potential for different startup options for positions and to onboard different things. As we start onboarding more people, there's that potential to maybe help more than 40 people a year. And I guess that's where my bottom line is going is that, you know, in our first year, we're anticipating being able to support 40 youth through groups of 8 cohorts. And then year 2, 3, and on, we're hoping to see that number actually increase in capacity each year as we grow in capacity.
Great, thank you.
Welcome. It's a great question. I should have included that.
Thank you, Councillor Gould. Any other questions or comments for our guest? So you presented to Amherst, and
Yes.
so when were you hoping to be able to move in a position around the executive director position? When were you hoping that would?
Well, I'll give you the same answer that I gave them. Ideally, we would love to hear back sooner than later, because the longer we wait, the longer we're not helping people that could really be using this support. So ideally, you know, a timely response and the ability to move on this, that would be ideal. But we also realize where we're at in the fiscal year. And we realize that that does present some challenges, and we're realistic. We don't want to, what do they say? Cut your nose to spite your face. We don't want to put the rush on things with a short-term vision. So we do have a very active and very capable volunteer board. And if it means that we're more likely to get the support we need from the town and the municipality to wait until, you know, the next calendar year, for example, that kind of thing is things we're open to. But in that perfect world, we'd love to get a response and of course the funding sooner than later, because we're very eager to start this initiative.
Thank you. The only other question I had for you, unless councillors have one, is so there are some volunteers in other communities that are trying to form some support groups right now because of some things that happen in the community with some youth, whether it's addictions or mental health.
Mhm.
What would your advice be to them should they reach out to you? I mean, they're working now to try to organize, but it's strictly volunteer.
Mhm.
And what would, if someone from that group was to call you, what would your advice be?
If we can get the funding from you in the town, then I'm saying yes, go ahead and reach out. Because much like what you're describing.
I take that question back.
But much like you're describing, we've done some pretty incredible things, but we're kind of at that capacity of what volunteers can do. And that's also speaking to one of those gaps we're looking to fill. We don't want to replace support groups like that, but we would love to work with them. We would love to support them. We would love to give them direction. We would love to be able to give them advice. We would love to be able to, as we grow in capacity, maybe take that peer support worker from our business, and maybe do some outreach and give them support. So I want to say, yes, tell them to reach out, but I also want to say, can we have the check first?
I'm listening to your presentation and thinking that they as a volunteer group or groups do not have access to the kind of expertise and different organization support that you have here in Amherst.
Yes, and that's where
They
doing
did
that
not have that.
outreach and going out to them,
Yeah.
or like I said,
So-
some of our funding proposals actually have transportation. So we might be able to look at bringing people to us or us going to them, because it's like you said, not everybody's in the backyard of Amherst, but they still need these supports. So if we can get the capacity of that person to be able to do the outreach, we've already got our funding worked into our budget, that we have the transportation money. We just need that person that could actually go to those groups, meet with them, give them some training, give them some guidance, maybe do some outreach.
And if I can add too, when we first were approached about the house at 27 Prince Arthur Street and we walked through it, I thought, hey, this is a really nice spot. But it's also not a very big spot, quite candidly. So we've known almost from the beginning that at some point we will grow out of it as far as employment opportunities go. We've been approached and we've been working with the Atlantic Home Building and Renovation Sector Council. They were the ones who helped us manage the project, the renovation project. And they established the industry standards that our participants were expected to meet. One of them actually was hired by the contractor right off. Another one has gone back to school to study carpentry and is moving forward in a career in that respect. And one of the others who finished was taking the summer off basically, but going back to work in construction when with other people after that. So I bring that to the forward because it's simply like that's one of the employment opportunities that's still on the horizon for us. And we know that it's a priority for the Nova Scotia government to build housing and accommodations and stuff. So this is something that we see, and it is a very positive future for people if they want to get into it. One of the feedback items that we got from the contractor was, yeah, many of the people who tried and weren't successful, there were barriers that they were running into, and some of them were some of the very basic things. They really just weren't ready. They weren't job ready at that time. An in-house setting as such as we've got right now will allow us to build some of those basic skills and then allow them to move into other opportunities elsewhere. So that's how we see it going. But I don't see that all happening from the house proper. Some of these things will be on site with others, with contractors and other people who are willing to work with us to get them that experience that they need. And that's just one of the work opportunities that can happen within the works. Others will, not everyone wants to do construction, we know that. So there will be some things that happen in the house, but the model can be replicated in smaller communities. So what we start in Amherst could easily be established by a community group in Spring Hill, or we could work with them if they had something that they wanted to work on. Like we could partner with them and work and help them establish it. We've got the organization that's set up, we've got the entire framework. So it's something that we can also help other smaller communities build within their own settings. And again, it brings the endless possibilities of what they build. In with Reach, what they were doing is they were doing soap and they were making cutting boards. And they also had a little bit of a yard work, landscaping business or whatever that they did, but all of it was essentially seasonal and it varied. So, and people had an opportunity to sort of decide what they might want to work on. And then they had the ability to see the product that they had made. They would take it to markets and they would have pride in what they had built and get compensated for it. So there was a little bit of
Experiential learning.
Experiential learning in a lot of different ways. So, but those things, so back to your question, what could we do with other groups from smaller communities? We could certainly help work with them to bring this to an area and to help guide them on how to establish smaller satellite type offices. Because again, we've seen from the beginning that the house in Amherst was not going to be the be all and end all for Cumberland County. And we established in the works as a Cumberland County wide organization, not just Amherst. As it turns out, our home is right in Amherst right now, and it's in a great location because it's across from Department of Community Services, Mental Health and Addiction.
Down the street from the hub.
Down the street
Across
from
the
the
parking
hub,
lot
there's
from
all
the
kinds
Y.
of stuff around us. But that doesn't mean that that's necessarily where we will be able to provide services to all of those in Cumberland County who are interested and would like to work with us and find some ability to, as Corey said, switch gears and move into something different.
Great. Thank you very much. I want to thank both of you for being here today. The work you're doing is tremendous and we really appreciate what you're doing. Obviously you're right. We'd be the same as Amherst. We'd have to take that under advisement consideration for council
Mhm.
regards to a funding request, but we will. And but anyway, thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate your work.
Thank you
thank
so
you
much
for
for
the
your
time.
time.
No, thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So if you're over your time, it's my fault, right? So
Oh, yeah, no.
We appreciate you giving it.
thank you.
Corey did email. I just do.
Thank you. Shelley just mentioned she did have received an email with the documents that she'll share with council, so we'll all have that for information. That brings us down to number 3 in the agenda, organizational policy bylaw items. 3.1, council meetings, proceedings, policy. Mr. Harrod, are you going to speak to this?
Thank you, your worship. Yes, I am. So the information in the council and the committee of the whole package begins at page 10. There's just a brief council direction request. This item arises just as we tidy up our council meetings and procedures. As council is aware, the policy has been in place for a bit. This council had agreed to meet on a few different nights, and so we're just trying to get to the place where our current practice is reflected in the current policy and perhaps a few other tweaks. So in council's package, beginning at page 10 is a bit of a marked up Word document. And I'm just going to, I'm sure everybody's had an opportunity to read it. I'm just going to go through and highlight the places where there are changes and then answer any questions you might have, take some feedback perhaps, and work on another draft if we have to, or move this forward to the council meeting. So at page 11, the first real sort of substantive change, and it reflects current practice, is that the council meetings, regular meetings of council be held once a month on the 4th Wednesday of each month, except that there shall be no regular meetings during the months of July and August. And so July is an addition. Currently, council doesn't meet regularly in August, and we're suggesting that that be expanded to July. The next change is at the bottom of page 11 and then continuing to the top of page 12, which is paragraph 5. And that relates to special meetings. And we've had a number of discussions about this. And the addition or the discussion about this item is that when special meetings are called, that a week's notice would be required. And once a majority of the members of council have indicated they can attend the meeting, we'll confirm the meeting. And that special meetings convened pursuant to this section, a bunch of words that mean special meeting, happen. They would only be scheduled on those off Wednesdays. So 1st, 2nd, or 5th Wednesday of the month. And so if the committee of the whole is on the 3rd Wednesday and regular council is on the 4th Wednesday, that leaves up to 3, not always 3, but up to 3 other Wednesdays in the month. And we're suggesting in this policy that those would be the days upon which we would attempt to schedule special meetings. Moving down to section 10, and a bit of a renumber here as well, and just explain that. At some point, I would expect historically, the way that the policy had been written, there was a duplication of numbers in the policy. And so we're just trying to tidy that up. And we pulled the committee of the whole section forward from the back of the policy. Not many changes here to the current policy, other than committee of the whole would meet normally on the third Wednesday of each month, except for July and August. There wouldn't be regular meetings in July and August. And that, again, we would attempt to schedule special meetings as we had just discussed. And section 15, I'm now on page 13, section 15, and council will see it in the blue marked up language. Committee of the whole meet for the purpose of discussion and possible recommendation to council. This copy says no formal decision to be made by council when the council members are meeting as committee of the whole. And I would add to that, and I was away for a bit of a week, or I was away for a week, so I didn't get to perhaps do the last run through on this. And I checked my notes, I hadn't made this change. No formal decision made by council when they're meeting as committee of the whole. And I would want to add, except for procedural matters and direction to staff. So those sort of substantive, spending money, that sort of thing, buying and selling assets. Certainly those kind of decisions wouldn't be made in committee of the whole, but procedural matters, forwarding items to council, forwarding them to another meeting, or providing direction to staff as a result of something we've brought to discuss with council, those would be appropriate for the committee of the whole. Next section that I want to bring to your attention is section 18, and it refers to minutes. And just a little bit of a correction there. It says in 18, it says the clerk shall keep minutes of the committee of the whole in accordance with section 9 of this policy. Well, actually, that's section 21. We renumbered a number of paragraphs, and so that was just a little bit of a typo. But that's not really a substantive change. It's just, hey, you're going to have council meetings, you're going to have committee of the whole meetings. You're going to keep minutes in the manner that it's set out in section 21. Moving on to section 23, and this refers to both council and committee of the whole meetings. So I'm now at page 14 in the council package, and you can see what has been the order of committee of the whole and the order of council, the agenda items, and that has included singing of O Canada. I don't recall us having done that in my time here. It includes roll call, and it includes singing God Save the Queen at the end of the meeting. Now that would be God Save the King, obviously. But the suggestion in this revision is that roll call be deleted, and that the singing of O Canada be deleted, and the singing of the King be deleted. Again, these are recommendations. And really, those are the substantive changes. You'll see a whole bunch of red there and at the end, where committee of the whole meetings have been ripped out of the end and moved to the front of the policy, beginning at section 10. I'm happy to try to answer any questions that council might have related to those recommended changes, and to take part in the discussion, Your Worship. So
Thank you. So, any thoughts or comments or questions for Mr. Hare in regards to councillor Hotelling, please? Yeah. Sorry, Scott, go ahead. Just yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, councillor Hotelling, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just wondering, I noticed on the agenda, we did have a request for our December meetings, and I wondered, because Christmas doesn't change every year, that we could address it in this policy so that staff would not have to bring that up every October or November. So possibly just changing the dates to the first and second Wednesday, or whatever staff recommend in that is just a suggestion. And then I thought I read something about removing posting to the public on social media and our website, but that's something that we have to do, right? I might have just seen it under something that was deleted and put somewhere else. I can't remember what section it was.
Yeah, please, yeah.
So, thank you for that, Councillor Hoteling. We can take that Christmas thing away and come back with some dates and a paragraph to deal with that for sure. So thank you for that. The second one about notification. So the legislation requires that public notice be given of special meetings. So, or a rescheduled meeting. The legislation, Municipal Government Act, does not require that once council has established its regular meetings through a policy like this, that there isn't a requirement to advertise those every month. So it's just sort of, I mean, once you've established your practice, that you would advertise changes.
I
So it would be, you know, on our social media, on our website, and in that old phrase that we love so much in a newspaper circulating in the community, those sorts of places to advertise. So does that answer your question?
Yes, I understand. So it would be like double, it would be like doing it twice because it already says the third Wednesday. So we don't have to also post it every time.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And your other comment was around, I think what you were saying is always the first and second Wednesday. Is that what you said? December, sorry,
For
December.
December
For December.
only, and I would just, you know, let
So,
staff
Yes,
figure out what.
So I made a note. We'll come back with some language around that. So, yeah.
Okay, and one more, does it mention in this policy that we go by Robert's rules or the other?
Borno's is the other. one.
Borno's the other one. yeah.
Yes,
So don't you speak to that? or do
Sure.
you?
yeah.
So-
Go ahead.
You'll see any number of, if you read the proceedings of council policies or bylaws across municipalities, sometimes you'll see reference to either Roberts, probably the most common, some others or Borno's. But there are still others that are drafted like ours that don't tie us to either of those texts. It's simply set out a few basic rules of order in the policy itself. And then leave the rest to the assembly, because in the end, it is the assembly that decides, and it's the rules of the chair that decides on those points of order, and is subject to the will of the assembly if somebody wants to challenge the ruling of the chair. So that's why it's not there, to provide some flexibility. His worship has a lot more experience on rules of order and having been the Speaker of the House for a number of years than I do, but that's the essentially, it's not to tie us to one text or the other.
okay,
That answer your question?
So if I could, yeah, thanks, Councilman. Thanks, Mr. Hare, for that. So the word about flexibility to me means a lot because so my experience has been if you have a set of rules that you have to adhere to, and then you can't, as a group, can have some input in regards to how maybe something makes it more applicable, maybe in this case,
mhm,
without someone raising the issue of saying, wait a minute, our rules say we're following these rules, you have to follow this way. So it really takes away some of that flexibility.
mhm.
And my belief is always this, whether it was here in the legislature, at the end of the day, if there's a consensus or group around that, whether it's, 8, 9 of us, or whether it's 50 of us, if there's an agreement amongst the group that that's the way they want to proceed, that's the way we should proceed. That makes the workings a lot easier. It makes things flow a lot better, and does allow for that flexibility when it comes to making, because who knows what issue you could face. You may decide you want to go a different way. So if you really adhere to one set of rules, you're going to be strict by it. It's going to really tie your hands in regards to having that flexibility. So far, I mean, the last 3 years, we haven't faced any really kind of, huge debates where I had to make some rulings around that. But for me, my thought as a chair anyway, to be able to have that flexibility, to be able to make the process flow is what it really should be about, as opposed to having a set of rules. You say you have to adhere to that set of rules, and here's what you have to do.
Mhm.
Again, my thoughts, but it's whatever majority here wants.
No, thank you. I
Okay.
just was wondering because I did the rules and whatever that workshop was, and they had asked who followed what, and I did not know, so.
So do you remember we had passed away, Mr. White, Bernie White?
Bernie.
Bernie White. Do you remember we
Yes.
all, so, I didn't say much during the debate, but met with him afterwards, and I said, what we're talking about here, and about my experience in the legislature versus following those rules and House rules and what's always been done traditionally, be the same here. And his answer was, whatever works for you.
Mhm.
We can have all these rules, But if the rules actually stop the process, stop us from actually getting the work done, it really is not doing what it was intended to do. Excuse me, but it's whatever works and whatever works here for this group. Irregardless what maybe another council does somewhere, what the legislature does, what Parliament does, it's whatever works here to get the business done in a really effective and efficient way, you know.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before you move on, just want to just question Councillor Hoteling on the November issue. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
So
Sorry.
just before you get to Kat.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's next.
Okay, so if.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we just want to follow up, Councillor Hoteling, on the December comment, and it's something I hadn't thought of, but so I think it's a good idea. Interest in sort of an integration with the November meetings and not necessarily, it just seems to flow the sort of 6 weeks there where you can deal with. As you correctly point out, the last couple of weeks of December are not all that productive in terms of getting things done. So is that, can we consider some options around that? Does that make sense?
It's okay with me. I
Yeah.
think the rest of council can speak up if they want.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Redmond, next, please.
Oh, did we lose her? We lost her.
So just while we're waiting for Councillor Redmond, I will say that normally I'd ask for that recommended motion. But it was pretty obvious that there can be some debate, discussion, and maybe some changes that maybe we'd ask staff to go back and come back at a later date with a more finished product. So that's why I didn't ask for a motion going into this. Councillor Redmond back.
She's still on the list.
She's still on the list.
Excuse me. Oh. Councillor Gould, then please, then we'll go to Councillor Redmond when she comes back.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just in reference to, and I had a quick conversation with the CAO on number 9. It's definitely important that once we're elected that we have access to emails, so computer, and certainly access to a phone that people can go online, see our number, and get a hold of us at all times. When we were elected last time, or the last term, we gave out 9 tablets and 9 phones. And most people have phones and most people have their own computers at home. So is there any way that we could possibly look at wording there if needed? In terms of, I agree 100% that we need to have it, but there's no sense of person carrying 2 phones around if they already have a phone. And at present, I am using my own phone because I temporarily lost my other one and misplaced it and found it in my wife's car after we canceled it, and I didn't realize it was there. So anyway, I'm just saying that I'm using my own phone. It's online. It's working perfect. I pay for it. And I don't see any reason why the taxpayer should have to pay for me to have another phone if I'm willing to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Gould. I have some thoughts myself, but Shelley, do you want to say something there?
Thank you, Your Worship. From a records management standpoint, it is very, very bad practice for us to let councillors have their own or using their own resources. Because if we get FOIPOP, we need your equipment back, and because we have to send everything, and it's just easier to track if it's on the municipal. And because even though the email comes to you, it's the municipality's email. So it's just the care and continuation of where those documents are kept. That was some of the rationale. Having said that, council are the decision makers, but that was the rationale is if we get FOIPOP'd or we had a councillor who liked to get the mail for the municipality at his house, and we had to stop that as well because we weren't getting it here, so we didn't have it when somebody called to ask a question about it. But records management is one of the reasons why.
So I'll just add to that. I don't know if Craig had something to say, but so for example, our MLAs carry 2 phones as well. So the personal phone is not FOIPOPable, freedom of information requests, but on the government one you can. So it's government information, municipal government or provincial. It's subject to the rules of freedom of information, but your personal phone is not. So if you start mixing the 2, I know it's an inconvenience, but you think, right?
Well, Your Worship, I don't want to disagree with you in public, so.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So, we can have another look at that paragraph. I think, Counselor, you and I had a chat before the meeting about the requirement and that sort of thing. So we can go back and have a look at that paragraph to make it less restrictive if we possibly can. I get your concerns. I would suggest that any email or any messages or email or other form of communication that members of council or staff for that matter are a party to, that relate to their duties. Not going to matter whether it comes to your personal address or your personal phone, that it's going to be reachable through part 20 of the Municipal Government Act, which is the FOIPOP provisions. So I think what's important here, I think you read that section, it's about ensuring that the organization really has one central way of contacting, or a couple of backbone ways of contacting members of council, and that they're established, and that we use those as the regular channels. And that's what this is trying to recognize. So we'll have another look at this paragraph, try to make it less awkward, and come back. Well, obviously, we're going to come back with another draft of this for discussion. So we'll take another crack at it, Brett, Councillor.
So just if I can make one final comment. Just my point is that we bought 9 tablets and I don't know that anyone's using it. So it's just a cost to the taxpayers.
Good.
I check my email at school, my workplace. I check my email if I go to a motel for a weekend or something on the computer there. I bring my laptop around, whatever. So in terms of how I check my email, as long as I do it, to me should be the most important thing. Yep. Thank you.
Yep, good points, Councillor Gould. Thank you very much. Councillor Redmond. She's back. She's back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to take a call from the doctor. I guess I'm assuming Fred covered what I was going to say about cell phones and tablets. Maybe instead of providing them, ask if they're wanted or needed. Don't take it completely off. The regular meetings for July and August, is that not going to delay the passing of where we need 3 readings? Is that not going to delay things during busy building season?
So if you recall, this July, we left it open for be able to call those special meetings, which we did to deal with rezonings and whatever else Mr. Boone brought before us. So that there was some flexibility there that we could do that, Councillor Redmond. And I think, with the suggestion here of no regularly scheduled meetings for July and August, it will still allow us the opportunity, whether it's July and or August, for those special meetings again. But any thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Redmond, I think you're on to something that I hadn't thought of. First, I don't think it will delay because I think we have the flexibility. What I hadn't thought of is ensuring that in July and August, we're not restricted to the first, second, and fifth Wednesday. That if you're going to not have regular meetings in July and August, the special meeting could be scheduled on any Wednesday in those 2 months. And that would give us the flexibility to hit those things like development agreements, rezonings, variants, those sorts of items that I think you're referring to. So we can change the language to allow special meetings on any Wednesday through the summer, if that addresses your concern.
Yeah, I have one other one.
Thank you.
We take the oath to the Queen, who now is the King. And I've always kind of liked, I can't sing, but I've always liked the pomp and ceremony behind us singing "O Canada," out of respect and God Save the King. So I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, but I just think it's just taking away from some of our can't think of the word. Some
Protocol?
of our normal practices that we have done since school, like even when we were in school, before school started, we sang God Save or Old Canada. And then we all sang God Save the Queen out of respect. That's just my personal view. Thank you.
No, it's a good point, Councilor Redmond, and we came into this with COVID and spent 2 years or better, meeting by Zoom. So, we just within the last year or so been able to actually start to meet in person like we are now on a regular basis at least. So, if that's council's wishes, to go back to those traditions, we can certainly do it. That's what council
Tradition,
wants.
that's the word, tradition. Yeah.
Tradition, if that's what council wishes. Yeah, so any thoughts from anyone else in regards to singing O Canada and or God Save the King?
Take a vote. I personally do not want to.
So Councillor McCormick is suggesting we take a vote to see if council supports including those two on our agenda. Traditionally in other jurisdictions, Greg, what are some options?
I think look, there's a variety across the province, and I'm sure in other municipalities and other provinces as well. I can tell you that where I worked previously, we didn't sing God Save the Queen at the end, but began a practice of inviting community members to sing O Canada, but only at the regular meeting once a month, not at committee of the whole. So, so that's an option as well. It really varies across there. I don't think there's a standard practice. Obviously, more and more we're seeing those sorts of things not observed, but that doesn't mean that's right. That's just the fact of it. So so really, your worship, all I really have to add to that is the possibility of when someone is available to have someone come and sing God's or O Canada is kind of nice sometimes. But yep.
Well, what are the wishes of council? So according to our current policy, O Canada is at first, God Save the King would be at the end, and that's for committee of the whole and regular council meetings, correct?
Right. That's correct.
Correct, Councilor Redmond, that's the way it's always been done, committee of the whole and regular council meetings? Yeah. So
Yes.
yes. So what's council's wishes? What do you, Councilor Gould?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, no, I'm just kind of pondering over. I mean, we do O Canada at school every morning. We don't do God Save the King, but I'm just wondering if maybe it's just a wording thing, if we leave it open to possible on some occasions to have at our meetings and kind of word it different in there. And then that gives us the flexibility of possibly having it. And if we choose this month or somebody that wants to do it or whatever, rather than committing to do it every meeting, but just my thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Joseph.
Your worship, I agree with Councillor Gould. I mean, we got to be flexible on this, and to have someone come in to sing O Canada, I think is great. It gives them exposure to a brief council meeting if they want to stay, and it's a member of the community that we are bringing in to share their expertise. So yeah, I believe that a lot of them have gone away with God Save the King. Why? I don't know. However, O Canada to me is very special. However, I am flexible to bring someone in. Thank you.
Anyone else? So does this make sense? We'd leave it part of our policy as an optional item. And you know, it could be again, it could be a special guest that we may want to bring, maybe a student, you know, that would want to be part of the process with us. I mean, it could, rather than maybe just take it out of the policy altogether, if we leave it as an option for council, both the O Canada and God Save the King, does that work? At least to leave it there as an optional thing, and we can decide, I guess, as we go forward. Is that okay? Anyone not agree with that? Okay, Councilor Redmond? Okay, thank you. The other part of that is the roll call. So again, it's something being suggested that do we really need roll calls? Funny, in the legislature, you're not allowed to acknowledge the presence or the absence of a member. And here we actually call a roll call, and it does that very thing. So suggestion here is, do we really need to call a roll call? You know, people that are here are part of the assembly here, are part of it, part of the discussion, part of the debate. And so that's just a suggestion that we remove the roll call request. Councilor Revin.
The only question I have there is there used to be somewhere that if you missed 3 regular council meetings that you could be removed from council. I have not seen that in here because, and I'm just wondering if that's not an issue, then don't take roll call.
Thank you, Councilor Redmond. Great. You want to answer that?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the question, Councillor Redmond. The missing 3 meetings without leave of council is statutory. It's in the Municipal Government Act, so it's not required to be in the policy. The minutes will still show who was present and who is absent, and the minutes should show when they joined or left a meeting. If they left, during joined or left during the proceedings of the meeting. So I think we gather the appropriate data to be able to take care of that, Kathy. So I don't think that impacts that.
Thank you.
Still okay. No,
That's good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Redmond. Deputy Mayor Joseph.
Your Worship, I don't think we need roll call. We can all see who's here, and whoever can't make it sends their regrets by email of a common courtesy. And at the end of the day, everything is on the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? So I think we agree by consent, I guess, that we'll remove the roll call portion. Okay. Were there any other concerns, comments, suggestions around Mr. Harret's suggestions around the new policy before us? So we'll still have time if there are, but I think we've got some work to do now to come back in the future meeting, Mr. Harret, with the new policy reflecting what's been decided here today.
Sure thing, Your Worship. We'll bring it back to November Committee of the Whole with a spiffed up policy based on the conversation we've had here, and council can have another crack at it.
Okay, anyone not agree with that?
Thank you for
Great,
that.
thank you. On the agenda here, I'll blow that. I know. Fine while you're away. Oh, hell, yeah, what is that there? Is that page 45?
Ask me to help you out, man.
Yeah, no, there we go. Next agenda item, Mr. Boone.
Your Worship.
Municipal Heritage Property application for registration. Please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just saying to some of my colleagues, we don't have heritage applications very often in municipality. We have 2 in front of you today and a 3rd in the wings. So I should be careful how I speak. Both applications we'll discuss today are a little bit unique, starting with the first one that's in your package. municipal heritage property application for registration. It's the Mattinson Heritage, Hansford Cemetery on the Hansford Road in the community Hansford, it's just outside of Oxford. Application was made from the Mattinson Hansford Cemetery Society. It's an organization that's been taking care of the cemetery since they've kind of restored it since 2016. The cemetery was originally established in 1862 and was utilized until 1921. Known 22 graves and the site. It's a bit of a unique application because I think we're used to most heritage applications involving a building. And in this case, it's a site or a location, which under the Provincial Heritage Act is an acceptable consideration to register as a municipal heritage property or municipal heritage location. So it does happen on occasion where it could be a site or a neighborhood, which is common in some of the bigger cities and towns throughout the province, excuse me. In this case, staff's actually recommending against registering it as a heritage property. I will talk about some alternatives later in the presentation and in the process, but it's also noted in your packages, some of the alternatives. And it's not that we don't think there's some, local heritage value in the property, and this community organization has done a great job. As you can see in the package that's attached that they presented in the application, they've done some great work. And when you look at a heritage application and look at how you determine its value, the legislation is fairly specific around what is the significant history of a location or a building that would have us consider that. So in respect of the application and the information that's presented, it's very well done. The group's working very hard. But when you look at those particular items, anybody who was buried there was significant to somebody in their time. They're just not necessarily seen as significant in heritage and history. No significant events on the location, no significant people of history, I should say, that have been buried or were associated with the location. So with that being said, the staff recommendation is strictly following that protocol. But as you can see in the package, a lot of information provided. It's a well-organized group. And, all persons buried there, as I said, were of significance to their family and their ancestors and ancestors that, may have made significant contributions to the communities at the time. So there is one piece of information that we would like to update under financial implications. If council was to look at the alternatives, it should be noted that if it was designated as a heritage property, the municipality normally provides a brass heritage plaque, which the organization could establish on their sign that's located on the site. So it's probably a value around $200. So there could be a small impact on our financial, but nothing of significance. I would like to point us to the alternatives. The committee of the whole acts as our heritage advisory committee because we don't have a standing heritage advisory committee. So that's why these two applications are in front of you today. So the committee of the whole acting in that heritage advisory role can defer a decision and ask for additional information. You can follow the recommendation, which is refuse the registered heritage property, or you can determine that you see the value from a heritage standpoint, and we can bring a recommendation to council to register the location as a municipal heritage property. The only thing I can say is that in some cases, there has been programs in the past provincially that support heritage designated properties and buildings that the group could maybe access in the future. There's not a lot of programs that exist today, but it could possibly exist in the future. So your worship, unless there's specific questions, it's a little bit tricky of a application to bring forward, but I just wanted to present it in the best case we can.
Thank you, sir. So thank you, Mr. Boone. So the recommended motion is the committee of the whole acting as a heritage advisory committee declined to recommend designation to council. Someone like to make that motion, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Joseph. Seconded by Councillor Gould. So the recommended motion is that the council not accept the request to designate this as a heritage property. Any questions or comments from Mr. Boone in regards to that, Councillor Hotelling?
So I just wanted to ask, so this wouldn't mean any extra work for the staff at the county. So other than the plaque, there would be no extra implications for staff, correct, Director?
Yes, your worship, back to Councillor Hoteling, no additional work. The heritage application, with the exception of some minor administration to have it registered at the Registry of Deeds once it proceeded, it would be a minor bit of staff time. So can't say none, but nothing of significance. And once the heritage property is designated, we provide the plaque to the owners. Our work's kind of done, with the exception of in the future, they were asking for details for us to confirm its registration with an application for funding or something along that lines, but it would be very minimal administrative time.
Thank you. And I was wondering if there was any other cemeteries registered in the county.
I did work with Shelley, our clerk, on that. We did not find any other registered cemeteries. And I can't speak to whether or not there was any other registered cemeteries in the province. With the exception, I know that there's a couple old burial grounds in the city of Halifax, but I believe they're provincial heritage status on those.
Thank you. So I guess procedurally, I'm not sure how to go forward, but I would like in this case to recommend or make a motion to actually register it as a heritage based on.
We have a motion on the floor now.
Okay.
So, we'll have to vote, if you want to bring back a different motion, Councillor Hoteling, but we'll have to vote on the motions on the floor now, unless you want to make an amendment. But we'll have to vote. We have a mover or seconder, we'll have to have discussion, then we'll have to vote on this motion.
Okay, I'll just say one more
Okay.
thing then,
Yep.
just that I have been in touch with this group before, and they are doing quite a bit of work on the property, and they really care for it and take a lot of pride in it. And I think that if this can help them, have it be taken care of in the future with grant applications, that they would appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from anyone in regards to this agenda item? Seeing none, so I think you just answered the question I was going to ask Mr. Boone. So to your knowledge, there are no other cemeteries in the municipality that are designated as heritage properties on municipalities, correct? Shelley?
Thank you, your worship, to yourself and the director. None that we could locate in our files. Some of the issue is that the files are all done in WordPerfect, which we no longer have any longer. So they're a little hard to read, but there were none that we could locate.
And do we know how many cemeteries are in Cumberland County?
No idea, your worship. I could find out. There are a number of what people might consider historic cemeteries, but none that we know that are registered. But it would be a significant number. I mean, I know, cemetery corporations and cemetery societies are quite common. That's how most of them are maintained, and it's a common practice. You do see a number of these throughout your travels, I'm sure you have, that are well maintained, and you see a lot of what I'll call pioneer cemeteries or heritage cemeteries that are not well maintained. So this is a group, as I mentioned earlier, is doing a good job. Excuse me, to Councillor Hoteling's statements earlier. So
And the last thing for me is there's nothing, whether they're designated heritage property or not, there's nothing prevents them from applying to municipality or any for our funding as it stands today with the current status, is there?
not in any of our funding programs that they might be eligible for. I know the annual process we go through. I can't speak to how those applications would be processed by council, but it wouldn't require heritage status to apply for such.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Boone? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Oh, sorry, Councilor Evans, did you have your hand up to say something?
Yes, just because no other cemetery is a heritage property doesn't mean we can't grant this. I see no issue with granting a plaque and giving them the ability to apply elsewhere for funding under the Heritage Act. So I will vote nay on the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments before I call for the question? Councilor McCormick.
And yes, your worship, I'll be voting nay as well.
So I think we'll ask for a show of hands. So I'm going to call for the question unless there's any further comments. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand, please. Those against, raise your hand. Motion is defeated. So, Mr. Boone, thank you for that.
Thank you, worship. I'll ask you to look at the alternatives that were provided and you can provide direction from there. Far be it for me to tell council how to proceed. Happy to take direction.
If you got a negative motion, you probably need a positive.
Yeah.
Otherwise it doesn't. Yeah, so we'll have to. It's in the order we're doing. Is that similar? For the council, but we still make decisions. He put some other options there. Okay. So it's defeated, right? That's right. There's nothing there. Yes, right. Right. Yeah. Yep. So that's positive motion or something. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So staff recommended not allowing for the certification of the heritage for the, and that's been defeated emotionally before. So if there's council so wishes to put forward a positive motion, certainly open to that now. Councilor O'Taylor.
Thank you, your worship. I would like to make a motion to designate the property as a registered municipal heritage property.
I will second that.
You recommend that for council, to council, go for the council, right? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I will second that.
Seconded by Councilor Redmond. We forward it to council for consideration of designated as a heritage property. Any questions or comments in regards to that? Forward to council, that's part of the motion. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Argument nay. One nay, the motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Boone. That brings us down to 4.3 heritage property deregistration application.
Thank you, your worship. Thing like keeping things complicated. So this is an application from All Saints Parish acting on behalf of the property owner. This is our former church at 40 Chapel Street in Spring Hill. It's an application to deregister the property, which was approved by the former town of Spring Hill. Again, it's a unique circumstance as the building still exists, but is not fully operational as a church. The deregistration has to follow the process and the legislative authority that you have in your report. And some of the key things to note is, at what point can you deregister a property? Is if the building has been destroyed or damaged is one of the opportunities, or the continued registration of the property appears to be inappropriate as a result of loss of the property's heritage value. So in making these considerations, council does have to hold a public hearing when they're looking at deregistration. Any public hearing would have to be duly advertised. When doing so, if council decides to move forward, or the committee makes recommendation to council move forward, any such public hearing would require 30 days notice. So it's a little different than our planning applications, which you normally see before you. In the application, there's a detailed package that was presented by the applicant. It kind of tells the history of how the church came to be, how the church went through the process of registration as a municipal heritage property. And in fairness to the information that's in the application and the discussions I've had with the church, it was registered at a time where there was indications for potential for funding from provincial bodies if you had municipal heritage status, and even potential to move it towards a provincial heritage status after you had municipal heritage status. So at that point, there was a lot of conversations that were held between the church and the former town, and as well as some discussions both with the former director of heritage, Mr. Cuthbertson, who I knew at the time, as well as with at some point the minister of I think it was municipal affairs, who was in charge of heritage, was involved. So those details are in the package. Again, the church isn't being utilized. The congregation has now become quite small. They just utilize a chapel in the glebe, which is still on the property. The church is looking at selling all of their property as a package and the heritage designation is deterring from that sale. The church has some issues with foundation problems, as well as some of the issues with the roof, including the steeple. They're not prepared or actually financially able to put more money or capital into the building, and that's the basis behind their register or application to deregister. And as I mentioned, it was registered at a time where different programs existed and examples of support were much different. So the recommendation before you is that that the Committee of the Whole, acting as the Heritage Advisory Committee, would move forward to a public hearing at a future council meeting, so the issue can be discussed in more detail. And it allows public input at the same time. The other thing I can say, Your Worship, it might be relevant to the application, is that the church only wants to dispose of the lands they have as a package. And so breaking it apart is not in their considerations at this time. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So there was a recommended motion that council hold a public hearing to consider the application to deregister 40 Chapel Street, Spring Hill, PID 25224874 as a municipal heritage property at a future meeting of council. My suggestion, the motion would say that we forward that to the October 25th council meeting for a decision in regards to holding a public hearing at a future date.
Correct.
So someone would like to make that motion, please. Moved by Councilor McCormick, second by Deputy Mayor Joseph. Any questions or comments for Mr. Boone around this agenda item? Seeing none, call for question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Or demand it nay, or raise your hand. None, motion is carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
4.4, dated December council meeting. Mr. McCracken, Deputy CAO.
Thank you, Worship. Had some discussion around this already this evening, but as you know, our regular December council meeting would fall smack dab in the middle of our Christmas holidays. And typically our offices per policy are closed between Christmas and New Year's. The scheduled council meeting for our existing policy, until it's changed, would be December 27th, which falls when those offices are closed. So per section 4 of the council meetings and proceedings policy, committee of the whole or council may, by the way, resolutions reschedule, relocate, or cancel a meeting 3 or more days in advance. So there's a recommended motion for consideration in your package to change the dates of the December committee of the whole and regular council meetings.
Thank you, sir. So the recommended motion is that Committee of the Whole reschedule the December 2023 Committee of the Whole and regular council meetings from 3rd and 4th Wednesdays of the month to the 2nd and 3rd Wednesdays of the month, respectively. Someone like to make that motion. Moved by Councillor Gould, seconded by Councillor O'Telling. Any questions or comments from Mr. McCracken in regards to this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or demand it nay. Motion carried. Thank you, sir. Number 5, external reports, committees. We do not have any for tonight, or proclamations. Number 6, internal updates, reports, committee minutes. 6.1, administration departments monthly report. Mr. McCracken. Please.
Thank you, Worship. In your report, so you'll see an update on your municipal district grants. We're a little over 6 months in, so there's some funds to spend, and over the next 6 months. As you can see, budget remaining is a little less than half, or much, some cases, much less than half. So we're definitely on track for spending the bulk of the district grants. No doubt will be every effort to spend all the money by March 31st. Sure, we'll have no issues there. There's some customer service statistics in your package. Of course, billing and development continue to lead the way. Director Boone will have further information in his report on those statistics specifically. In terms of human resources, we have a few positions that have been filled over the last month. And including the seasonal gardener and Spring Hill, which is a new position approved by council in this year's budget. We have a number of vacancies as well. As you'll see with the graph below, we're tracking our position competitions. So that's each time we post a position that's vacant. And the good news is we're trending down from last year, which indicates some stability in our workforce, which is encouraging. We have been given notice and we've responded to the QP union that will be beginning negotiations with the union and new collective bargaining agreements, and those will start in November. In terms of communications, our corporate communications officer has been busy with many articles and proclamations, and really continues to tell the story of our municipality on social media and in the news. Our asset management plan, we have a draft of that complete, and we'll be bringing a final version of new asset management policy to a future council meeting for consideration. Also, bylaw and policy review, a preliminary review of all our bylaws and policies has been completed, including a list of recommended policies to keep, some to change, and create new or repeal. And so the consultants are drafting several new policies to be brought forward. So we'll have a fairly busy number of months, I suspect, over the winter, considering new policies, changing existing ones and repealing some existing ones as well. Happy to answer any questions, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from Mr. McCracken in regards to his report? Seeing none, thank you. 6.2 Development Planning Department monthly report, Mr. Boone, Director of Development and Planning.
Thank you, Your Worship. You have the report in your package. The key items to note, council's been very busy with some of the planning applications. So we have a public hearing now set and advertised for October 25th. That's for the Merville Rustin House movers rezoning for the Little River area, as well as that on October 11th, the ads were placed in the paper for the Sergeant Perrin, as well as the Felder Shore Developments second reading that council approved. So the appeal period, 14-day appeal period, is currently underway. The public hearing for Pal Scallion was held on in the September council meeting, and will now advance for second reading consideration at your regular meeting next week. We continue the work on the 2 development agreements, because I have been asked the question by one of the Councillor Redmond in the past how they were proceeding. So we're still working through those development agreements. They are, Your Worship, taking just a bit longer because we're making sure that they're detailed and good information, good exchange with the applicants is taking place, because these are our first development agreements under the new municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. And these applications have got a lot of attention through their environmental assessment programs or processes. And we're just making sure that things are well detailed before we bring those to council. Still anticipate those coming to council this fall. And we'll have those in your agenda very soon. Permitting inspection work remains high with volumes. Year over year, up about 12% of total permit volume. We're about an additional 83 process permits year to date. Subdivisions are down slightly, about 97% of last year, but we've added a new graph in your packets that shows the relationship between applications and number of lots approved. So you can see in that graph that the number of lots compared to previous years and previous applications, the lot count is quite a bit higher. So what we're seeing is larger subdivisions. We're seeing a lot of private roads being considered, which is creating more lots, which is why the applications have become a little more complicated, and a little bit slower in the process. So hopefully that graph will give you some additional information. With regards to broadband internet, some additional work has been done with staff, working with the Municipality of Colchester and Develop Nova Scotia to get additional information aligned. And working with our CAO, we're looking at a joint meeting with our collective councils to discuss broadband internet. And we have told our colleagues at Explore that we will expect an in-person presentation in a future joint council meeting. So that is underway and ongoing. And the final information I bring forward is the working group for the Research Advisory Committee for Geothermal had its I guess quarterly meeting on September 14th. A lot of information was exchanged. Councillor Joseph, Councillor Hotel, and yourself, Worship, were in attendance, and I think we've seen some good progress in that project. And the last thing to mention is we're still awaiting word on our low carbon community applications for the other two energy projects. And unless there's specific questions, I will leave it at that.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Boone in regards to his report? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
6.3 Finance Department monthly report. Hurdle, our Director of Finance, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. My report is in the package. So all bank account reconciliations with the meeting being a little bit earlier, they're in progress, but they're not completed yet for September. The payroll remittances are complete and up to date. You can see the tax information there. The collection rate is slightly higher than 2022, but pretty similar. A little bit of information about our next tax sale, but I presented that last month, so I'm not going to go into detail. The finance department has provided the auditors with information, and the audit work is well in progress. We're not quite at the point of scheduling an audit committee meeting yet. And then there's some information about water utility collections and disconnection letters. And we have also started working on the Spring Hill meter installation project with Neptune, which is exciting, and currently working on the database and templates for the customer accounts. And that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Hurdle in regards to her report? Councillor McCormick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a few, Amy. The fourth year and older total of 676,000. How many accounts does that actually represent?
It's about 460 accounts. Of that, about 172 of them are issue accounts that we've identified. 62 of them are owner unknown. 44 are survey required, and the rest, 182 approximately, are tax sale accounts.
Thank you. Of those accounts, how many are actually right now at the lawyers for title search?
There's actually, we're down to about 21. 11 of them are issue accounts, so they're going to get pulled. We did just receive back 46 of them in the last month. So we're down to 21. We do have a couple batches. We have a batch of owner unknown to go out to the lawyers, and we have another batch of like tax sale accounts to go out. So there will be about 140 when those batches go out.
So if any of those accounts, how many of those are included in? I think it's down to 14 now for the tax sale on November.
Of the four years plus,
Yes.
there were 16 of 17 accounts. So my information says we have 17 accounts right now.
Thank you.
So,
Of any of those accounts in the arrears for 4 years or any commercial?
yeah, there are 11 commercial.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you,
Amy.
Councillor McCormick. Any other follow-up to that?
So
Yeah.
just further to Councillor McCormick's questions, and Amy, I apologize, I didn't talk about this before, but we would also have a valuation allowance against track allowance for bad debt. So in fact, as you would know, Councillor McCormick, a lot of this activities would go through tax sales, and we identify issue accounts where in fact collectability will become an issue or impossible at some point, whether it's this year, next year, whatever. We will come to council, and it'll be up to Amy, obviously, to write some of these off because they will be uncollectible, but we do have an allowance against those to protect us from, severe impact on the bottom line. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you know the answer to this or not, but I'll ask. So you know that there's 148 disconnection letters that were sent.
Yep.
So I think I'm reading this. I think Nova Scotia Power, I think after the 1st November, they're limited, I think, in regards to disconnection for power. Are there any dates that we have to live by when the municipality for disconnection? Well, for water.
there is no statutory limitation on the period of the calendar period when we can disconnect for non-payment.
Thank you. Councilor Hotelli.
Is that 148 disconnection letters higher than usual?
I think the disconnection number is pretty typical, but by the time we actually get to disconnections, it's only typically 5 to 10 a lot of times. So I think that's not necessarily atypical, but it does significantly decrease.
Okay. And is there any, has there ever been any desire, I guess, to look at maybe a low income exemption for water because everyone is having a really hard time right now, and that is probably maybe the reason why this could happen? Has staff ever considered that?
I'm obviously fairly new, so I don't know the history. It's, I suppose, something we could look into. I'm not sure if other municipalities have anything like that. But we could look into it, I suppose. I'm not sure if Mr. Harrod, CAO Harrod, has any other information he could share.
Yeah, thank you. As you probably know, Councillor Telling, water rates are in Nova Scotia approved by the Utility Review Board. There is no allowance in our current regulations to exempt folks or customers, I should say, based on income. I'm not aware of, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't exist, but I'm not aware of other utilities who have that low income exemption.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Hotelli. Great, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Farrell while she's here? Seeing none, thank you for your report. And want to say before I forget, I did say it the previous ones, but anyway, thanks to all the work that's being done here, and especially to the staff. I know do a lot of the work behind the scenes. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. 6.4 Protective Services Department monthly report. Mr. Cole, Director of Protective Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Protective Services report starts at page 75 of the package. And under emergency management, we had one tropical storm in September that came through. There was quite a bit of preparation that was done by the emergency management office in preparation for that storm. Fortunately, it had little impact on Cumberland County. For fire services, fairly typical month with 117 callouts. Medical and MVA accounted for 44% of those calls, as again is fairly typical. RFP was issued for SCBA, the self-contained breathing apparatus for fire departments. That closes, that RFP closes in a week, Your Worship. The 3 month, it's actually 2 month statistics for fire service are at page 76. Under bylaw, is busy as usual. We're at 163 cases for the year so far. For the last 4 months, the county's been down to 1 bylaw officer. So she is working double time or triple time, in fact. And I'm happy to take any questions, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Any questions from Mr. Cole in regards to his Protective Services report? Seeing none, thank you for that. 6.5 Facilities Monthly Report, Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to report that September was another banner month for the campground. There was a 45% increase in guests that went through during the month. Again, it's especially good numbers considering a tropical storm came through and other weather events impacted tourism. The campers are quite excited about the new washroom facility, which is now weather tight, and closed this week. We'll have the final numbers for the next monthly report. The Mechanic Street splash pad has now had power connected. And there are photographs of the two interior rooms on page 79 of the report, Your Worship. The other major event in facilities was in relation to Cape Door. The two buildings, the restaurant and the guest house, have been reshingled. There are photographs on page 80. I apologize, the photographs are a bit distorted. The buildings are not quite as wide as they appear in those photographs. I'll do better as I learn to manipulate photo cropping in the future, Your Worship.
Expansion.
And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, sir. I thought that was the result of your great work this summer. You really did quite an addition there.
Expanded the
You
buildings.
did, sure
yes.
did, yeah. It's wonderful. Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from Councillor Goodwin, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a question about the lighthouse.
Here, Councillor Goodwin, just one second.
Sorry,
Just 1 second. She's
throw something. I'll learn.
there. We go.
Thank you.
There, you're on now.
Just a question about the lighthouse at Cape Door. I noticed when I was there this summer that there was quite a bit of exposed sheathing, and the rolled roofing product had probably blown away in one of the large gusts. Was there any work done to that at the same time, just to shore it up for the winter months?
There was no significant work done on the lighthouse itself,
Okay,
Your Worship. There are plans that Roger McIsaac is spearheading to deal with that structure. My understanding from Roger is it's secured for the winter.
perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, it's not gone, unattended is the wrong word. It's not gone unnoticed or unaddressed. I guess that's the word
Yes.
I'm looking for. So they've actually turned their minds to that and trying to get to the best place in the long term. So
Perfect. Yeah.
Councillor Goodwin, go
And
ahead, please.
just one
Yes.
more comment.
Yes.
Thank you, about the campground, which I frequent pretty much on a daily basis. It looks better this year, I think, than it ever has, and continues to improve with the help of Judy, the campground manager, and her tree planting abilities, which might be a curse when you're running the lawnmower, but it makes a huge difference, and lots of positive feedback from folks who live within the community and use that for their beach access point as well. So thanks for that.
Yes, Your Worship, the campground manager and Judy Trites and the facilities coordinator, Chris Douglas, did a fabulous job at the campground this year. And you know, I certainly appreciated their efforts.
For sure, yeah. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
Councillor Goodwin.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments from councillors? Mr. Cole, just in regards to, I believe the RFP has gone out for the two new fire halls.
Yes, Your Worship.
So I know that's been within the last 2 weeks, but when's the closing date for those? Are
So-
they staggered, aren't they?
Off the top of my head, Your Worship, I can't answer that exactly. It is end of the month, I believe.
I think it's in November.
I think the reason I ask, I'm thinking they're two separate dates, aren't they? They're not both closing the same day.
Oh, no.
No, it's closing the same day, Your
Yeah,
Worship.
it's one RFP
Okay,
for
it's
two
one
stations.
okay.
So,
Yes.
But, okay.
It's one RFP for the two fire halls.
Good.
But the completion dates are
They're
staggered.
staggered. Great, thank you.
that's exact.
Good, sir. I think that's it. Thank you very much, Mr. Cole. Again, thank you to your staff. Appreciate your work. 6.6, Public Works Department Monthly Report, from Mr. Walcrest, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Your Worship. You'll see in your council package some updates on the various capital projects happening throughout the municipality. Junction Road, the buried infrastructure is going to be winding to a finish this month. They're working on the last 185 meter segment from North Street south to manhole number 6, which won't mean much to anyone else, but it's 185 meters south of North Street. We also have concrete crews there installing curb and sidewalk. And when the curb and sidewalk is complete, then we'll complete the paving as well and finalize this reinstatement of the street. But out the road, the buried infrastructure has been completed. They're commissioning the lines with pressure testing and then we'll follow with superfluorination. They've begun to reinstate the road on the municipal section and the trenches in the parts owned by the province. We also have paved the parking lot at the Spring Hill Library, as well installed backup generators at the reservoir in Parsboro, as well as the water treatment building on Main Street in Parsboro as well. And we've added a door to our salt storage dome at the Public Works Garage located in Spring Hill. It's we installed in the previous fiscal year, looked a lot more complete, and we drain off our salt. There's also a list of various activities the Public Works operations groups have engaged in throughout the month of September. Happy to take any questions council may have, your worship.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Walkrest? Councillor McCormick.
I have a few, just a few. With the school.
Councillor McCormick. Okay, there you go. Good. Thank you.
With the new school and the opening date apparently is supposed to be March of 2024. Just wondering if there's a plan in place for the sidewalks on Princess Street.
Your worship.
Sure. Walkrest, please. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This week, in fact, I had a meeting with the consultants and design engineers for the sidewalk and project on Princess Street. Going through a draft design work that they've completed. And I hope to be able to bring that as part of the package of early approval capital projects to council to get out very early construction during the 2024 construction season.
Thank you. Next question is, I'm just wondering where we're at with the Spring Hill service entrance, the staff entrance.
So the staff entrance and the main entrance
Yes.
are two projects that are approved by council. Deputy CEO McCracken has taken the lead on these projects and has engaged with the architects that have done some conceptual designs previously. Is working with them to get some cost estimation for getting that work completed.
Okay. So this is a project that probably won't be completed till next year? Yeah,
Carry over?
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
carry over.
Just based on the amount of
No.
construction season we have left.
That may be the only capital project we carry forward. We're in pretty good shape, like it's happy.
Is the two of them is the entrance, staff entrance and the front entrance? The two
We've combined them in one.
We've combined them, did you? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, worship.
Thank you, Councillor McCormick. Any other questions for Mr. Walkrest? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, council.
Thank you. 6.7 Recreation and Community Services Department Monthly Report, Mr. McCracken.
Thank you, worship. So lots of information, lots happening in recreation as usual in the community services. Lots of information in your package. I'll provide a few highlights. We do have an RFP currently posted for a new active living and recreation strategy, and it'll be a closing date of October 27th. So we're looking for proposals to complete those. That's in partnership with the province, who helps fund one of our positions, our municipal physical activity leader, Carolyn Bulwark. And so we're working with those folks to review and provide recommendations for a consultant in the near future. Back into past the summer now, back into the fall, we have our walking groups, our community use of schools, and our multi-sport starting up. Also planning lots of events, as you can see from the list on page 88. Lots, everything from winter festivals to holiday events. Staff are busy planning those. Lots of programming going on. And there's an update there in your capital projects at the bottom of page 88 as well, including the new tractor, LED electronic sign, kitchen upgrades, accessible doors, office carpet replacement, and Carnegie metal lighting, all in various stages of completion. And we hope to have all those things completed within this fiscal year for sure. Some statistics on page 89 around community center use. In future meetings, we'll show some, month to month and some year to year graphs as well to help give you some context. And lots of, and just some more details on specific things happening at the community center. And it was a good year at the farmers market as well. Staff are going to probably make some suggestions and some changes there. Always a work in progress, but very pleased with the turnout there. Happy to ask or answer. I won't ask, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from Mr. McCracken in regards to his monthly report? Councilor McCormick. Mike, just wait for your microphone, please.
Thank you,
There you
worship.
go. Thank you.
I just have one question. Just wondering why the last couple of years that the annual Halloween dance has been held on another date except the actual date of Halloween.
Well, my understanding is coming out of COVID, it had been held for a number of years. So I think there was some feedback from the team, so the target audience, and as to when they would like to have the event last year. And so the event went over very well. So the teens and the staff have recommended having the event a few days before Halloween this year, for a safe and enjoyable environment, dance and that sort of thing, and allow the teens to do other things on Halloween if they wish on Halloween Eve. So yeah.
The reason that it was always held on Halloween
Mhm.
was Mayor Scott can probably with Mr. Joseph in the egg episode, but I think that's why it was always held on Halloween, to keep people like
She's right.
Deputy Mayor Joseph
She's right.
off the streets.
No, we didn't.
But thank you.
Just to support
Sure,
Councilor
yeah.
McCormick. Yeah, she's absolutely right. So, Halloween used to be a real night of, not too many people look forward to Halloween night
Right.
before. So she's right. So that was always held on Halloween night to give the youth an opportunity to do something else for the night. And they usually spent the whole evening there, which it was never held on another night, but I understand what you said.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councilor McCormick.
So yeah, it's
Mr. McCracken.
understandable. We could definitely take that in consideration for future
Another
planning.
year,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that tradition of what we faced over the years is
It's
thankfully
gone.
has been lost. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah.
It was just a way for me to get a deputy mayor.
So once, so the people that went through that have grown up now and not doing
Yeah,
that
we don't
anymore.
have to worry about him anymore.
Anyway, thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Councilor O'Telling, sorry.
Thank you, Your
Sure.
Worship. I was just wondering, I believe that we used to have 2 active living coordinators. And with the influx of residents in the north of Cumberland area, I just wonder if we could consider or look into if the province might fund a second active living coordinator for Cumberland North. And if staff could look into that and give us a response.
Mr. McCracken?
Your worship, so the province's stance, I know this because I was actually on the other side at one point, is one MPAL, so municipal physical activity leader per municipality. There was some exception, I believe, during the 2 dissolutions that they would honor the contracts of the 3 municipal physical activity leaders that existed at the time, 1 for each unit. Since then, it's been whittled down to 1. There have been some instances where they've made exceptions to the rule, primarily in for the rationale of in communities where there's a lot of equity and diversity and inclusion, accessibility challenges. Certainly a large rural municipality, I think could probably fit into that definition. I think the process through the active living and recreation strategy, that development, if it comes out loud and clear that we need more resources, and that we would be wanting to make a request to the province based on what we heard in these consultations. I think that would be good evidence or data to make our case. So certainly, it's not it would be unique to receive another physical activity leader. But I think we could make a good, strong case for asking for one.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor O'Donnell?
Yes,
Thank you.
I mean, sorry, your worship.
Yes,
The caveat with that is that, you know, the province only provides, not only, they provide $25,000. There'd still be 2/3, 3/4 of the position that council may be responsible for.
any other questions or comments for Mr. McCracken? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. So we're finishing the report. So again, just want to say on behalf of council, I'm speaking for all council. Just want to thank the directors and all their staff who do all this work behind the scenes. All this work's being done. And I think till we get into these chairs, we didn't never realize how much work is to be done on behalf of the municipality, on behalf of taxpayers. So thank you to all of you over there here today. And thank you to your staff who do all this great work on our behalf. So thank you very much. Last item on the agenda is number 7, the information item. So 7.1, there's Poverty Reduction Advisory Committee Strategic Plan Update. It's in your package for your information. I'd ask you to review that, please. I now ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Gould. We are adjourned. Thank you.